Shalom. Kalalayim La Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Racha HaKodesh. Double honors to the apostles of GMS that rule well, who I learned the truth from, and salutations and blessings unto the elect out there. Alright. This is going to be dealing with more on sorcery and witchcraft, more about how this kingdom and this world operates on witchcraft. And that's a word that people laugh at, like when we talk about warlocks and witches. People think like what do you call that, Warcraft and Harry Potter and fantasy realm. But this thing is very real, and every day it's being the curtain's being pulled back, the iron curtain. So this is Micah 5:10. And it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord Yahweh, that I will cut off thy horses out of the midst of thee, and I will destroy thy chariots, and I will cut off the cities of thy land, and throw down all thy strongholds, and I will cut off witchcrafts out of thine hand, and thou shalt have no more soothsayers. Right? Let's look up that word, witchcrafts. The word is kashap. Kashap, sorcery, witchcraft. Let's go to the root. You see down here to the Strongs. Right? The Strong says to whisper a spell, to enchant or practice magic. Right? In the Gesenius's Hebrew lexicon, it says to pray to offer prayers or worship. Right? So pretty much, right, it says to whisper a spell, to practice witchcraft, right? And the Most High is cutting that off in this place. We're very close, and this lesson is going to deal with a demon that's pretty much very much popularized in this kingdom, called Baal Peor, right? He was the god of the Moabites. So it says, verse 13, thy graven images also will I cut off, and thy standing images out of the midst of thee, thou shalt no more worship the work of thine hands. And I will pluck up thy groves out of the midst of thee, so will I destroy thy cities, and I will execute vengeance in anger and fury upon the heathen, such as they have not heard. So let's go to this website, myhouseministries.blog. Baal Peor and the sexual sin of Balaam, right? Let's jump down here, right? I caution you, right? Because it gets graphic. It says, historically, this god was worshipped and associated with disregarding any and all sexual restraints. Sounds familiar, right? Aleister Crowley, Esau, you're not slick, you're not old. All this stuff is old world, right? Aleister Crowley, do as thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, right? Free yourself, liberate yourself, right? Do anything that comes to your mind. Well, this was the way of the ancient world, right? The Egyptians, right? The Assyrians, right? The ancient mystery school of Babylon, right? It says, disregarding any and all sexual restraints, extreme sexual practices, and orgies, Baal Peor, like many, was worshipped in the form of a phallus. To go one step further, the Hebrew word Peor, which is pa'ai, war, comes from the root word pa'ir, meaning open, gap, wide, or hole. Scholars have suggested that Baal of Peor could then be translated as Lord of the Openings, Lord of the Gap, or Lord of the Holes. This translation meaning and root association leading to a traditional understanding, and very possibly the source of Talmudic traditions, associating Baal of Peor with exposure and excrement, right? And that's some real nasty shit, man. No pun intended. That is some real degenerate stuff. But that's how these elites get down, right? And you know, I gotta bring it out if you're eating Slovakia. But they get down like that. They consume that stuff as well, excrement and blood and all these different things, because it's part of that magic and that craft, right? Depending on what craft, what society, what ritual, what degree, you know. Carrying on, it says the Talmudic texts cited here are only used for are used only for historical references. The tractate Sanhedrin 64a through Rabbi Judah tells the story of a sick Gentile woman who promised to worship every idol in the known world if she became well enough to follow through. Upon recovering from this illness, she journeyed to make well of this promise. Upon reaching Peor, she could not bring herself to follow through on her vow, as the worship was absolutely disgusting, as they were eating beets, drinking strong drink, and then uncovering oneself in front of the idol. Right, it says now this guy Shlomo Yitzhaki, known as Rashi, comments on Numbers 25 and 3, stating that because the people would uncover before the end of the rectum and bring forth excrement, this is its worship. Therefore, the place was called Peor. These disgusting acts were then associated with and used in sexual practices. To bring this idea and topic full circle, the Septuagint translation renders Baal of Peor Baal Figor, which is a known demon and one of the 7 princes of hell in demonology. Brothers, that's BS about hell. The 7 prince, it's all madness, but it's a demon, right? That people worship. In the Merriam-Webster's Encyclopedia of World Religions, the photograph associated with this post is found for Baal Fagot, Baal Figor, seating this demon god on a toilet. Coincidence, you be the judge. Alright, you see this demon. But this is look, this is how these people get down, man. Let's go to the next source. This is from DougResler.com. God and Baal. Okay. It says one cannot read too far into the scriptures before encountering a false god named Baal. Baal was a Canaanite god, worshipped in many different ways by many different tribes. Baal is typically understood to be the storm god, the god of weather and fertility. In agrarian culture, one can easily see how such a god would gain ascendance and become the primary subject of worship, along with his divine consort, Astarte, which is Ashtar. Worshipping Baal involved ritual sex. Priests and priestesses would copulate with worshippers who came to make offerings at the shrine. On high holy days, the community would gather and engage in large-scale orgies as they sought to commune with Baal. Some Baal cults went to the extreme, often sacrificing children or worshipping their own excrement. Yes, you read that last part right. Their worship literally involved the uncovering of the rectum, the most shameful part of the human body, due to its almost permanent state of uncleanness, and depositing their waste on the altar. Such was life under the cult of Baal Peor. Bruh. I know, brothers, man, this is filth, but shameful spewing, as the scriptures say. This is how you gotta get down. You want the fame, all right? You want like Scarface. You want to make the big bucks, Mr. Big Shot. You want to make the big bucks? This is how you make the big bucks, man. This is how you get renowned in this world, right? This is how you become successful. I want to be successful. You gotta make a gaping. You gotta open your gape. It says Baal Peor literally means Lord of the open holes, or Lord of the rectum. According to sources, their worship was the very definition of ritual uncleanness. The very antithesis of Israelite worship. God hates Baal worship, hates it for what it represents, hates what it does to his divine image bearers. Okay, let me see. Let me read this part. It says, sadly, Baal worship is experiencing revival, perhaps not in the extreme form represented by Baal Peor, which this looks like a Christian blog site. They don't really know the half of it, right? They showed some good history, but um, they don't know the half of it, man. There's an old movie, and I'm glad I don't know the name of it, but I seen the trailer. I never watched the movie, but in the trailer, this is actually an Italian movie, right? It's in Italian, but it was an elitist movie, right? Like a top elite, like an oligarch family, and the movie was in a huge compound, like a mansion, huge estate, acres of property, and it was like a old, probably maybe 80s, something like that. But again, it's filmed in Italy, and it was in Italian. Um, but they showed there was a scene in the trailer, not the movie. I never went to go check out the movie just because the trailer was crazy, and this was like maybe 5 years ago. So I can't remember the name of the movie trailer, but in the trailer they showed a scene where they were at the big dinner table. It was a huge, huge dinner table. There's probably like 25 people, kids and adults, and they were eating. And then there was a scene where they showed, they were served shit, excrement, and the kids were trying to spew it out, and they were forcing them, and they had to eat it, and everything looked nice, like the plates and the cutlery, and the table and everything. They were all dressed up, but they were eating excrement, man. And these were oligarchs, elites, and this is how they got down, man. So like I said, these are filthy demons. You got to do some real foul shit to get to the top. All right, it says sex has become a god in our world. Lust has been mainstreamed. Altars to eros have been erected all over and command millions of worshippers. Sexual restraint is considered unholy. Yep. And the denial of sexual desire almost criminal. Speaking out against the god of sex, blasphemous. Baal has even ensnared millions of Christians as well. Pornography, sexual promiscuity, adultery, that word, serial divorce, you name it. The American church has condoned it. Pretty much, spitting the reality and facts. That's pretty much it. I don't have to, you're not saying anything we don't know. So let me get this scripture 1 second. This is Wisdom of Solomon 12, verse 3. For it was thy will to destroy by the hands of our fathers both those old inhabitants of thy holy land, which was what we just read about, the Canaanites. You had other ones, the Perizzites, Hittites, the Girgashites, but these people worship Baal in different forms, right? Those old inhabitants of the Holy Land, whom thou hatest for doing most odious works of witchcrafts and wicked sacrifices, right? Child sacrifice, human sacrifice, let me get that word as well. I looked it up here. Odious. Late 14th century, hateful, deserving of hatred. Now let me go to odium, right? It says see odium. 16th century, fact of being hated, from Latin ill will, hatred, grudge, animosity, offense. Now we'll go down right here. English, Old English, atoll, evil, dire, loathsome. Right? So these are like very, very wicked things, so you can understand. So most wicked things that you can imagine. And my previous lesson, I showed you how these elites, their concept of gaining illumination, right, through having relations with a prepubescent child of pure innocence, right? and they so-called gain their illumination that way. That's that's pretty much when I was reflecting on that. I said, to be the elite of the world, what would you have to do? Pretty much the most wickedest thing you can imagine, and pretty much that's the most wickedest thing you can imagine, to corrupt a young child, 3-year old, 4-year old. You know what I mean? You can't get any lower than that, man. All right. It says, verse 5, and all those merciless murderers of children, this was a thing, man, right? And devourers of man's flesh, and the feasts of blood. You think those feasts of blood died away? No, man, they're being practiced here through various high wicked holy days to them, right? It says, with their priests out of the midst of their idolatrous crew, and the parents that killed with their own hands souls destitute of help. See, so the Lord, oh, they're heathens, but it doesn't matter. The Lord's not down with that, man. In the kingdom, there's going to be nothing like that. The heathens' kids are going to be fine, man. Because you're going to be a part of the Israelite empire, man. Intergalactic empire, man. You know, you're going to be fine. You're going to be safe because we're not going to be down with that child sacrifice, you know, doing things to children, man sacrifice, right? You're going to be actually in a perfect world, right? You're just going to be in captivity catching hell, but you're at least going to know, you're at least going to breathe fresh air, know what clean water is, right? It says, verse 7, that the land which thou esteemest above all other might receive a worthy colony of the Most High's children. All right. So anyway, that was the lesson. I hope you're edified. And I want to say, Kal Halayim La Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, Bashem Racha Kodash, double honors unto the apostles of GMS that rule well, who I learned this truth from, and salutations and blessings unto you elect 144,000 and 1/3. Shalom.